Welcome back to another YouTube video. We haven't been posting videos in a while. We've been pretty busy, but we have a new project that we are going to try to tackle. Behind me is our Super Modified. Our plan is to strip it all the way down, and then I'm gonna put it back together and take you guys along from day one right now, all the way till we take it to the track and test it and see how it does. But little backstory on this car. This car is built pretty much when I was born. The motor, I think, is older than me, but we're going to take the motor out, put a new one in, just kind of go through this whole car. The tricky thing about these cars is everything's pretty much machined and made. We can't just go buy parts off the wall, so it's going to be a fun experience, taking it all apart, checking everything, putting it all back together, and then eventually, hopefully before the end of the year, taking it to the track and seeing how we can do in it. I did race this car. We figured out, I think the last time I raced it was about 7 years ago. The last race in it, we won the Harvest Classic at Madera, and it's been put away, sitting on the stands exactly how it came off the track. So I'm sure we're in for some surprises and some challenges, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun and a pretty big new task for us to tackle, but we'll bring you guys along. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take off all the body panels and all the excess stuff that I can get off today, and then hopefully next time we'll be working on the motor. But the car is pretty dirty. It's pretty just kind of exactly like I said, how it came off the track. So I don't know exactly what we're going to find, but we're going to get started with body panels. I'll grab a cart. Alright, so a little more backstory on this car. It was built by Ed Hyder in the early 1990s. It was built to be what they called a cam car back in the days, where they had to have 55% left side weight. That's why the motor sticks straight up and down. It was owned by my grandpa back in the day and my dad, and then recently, after I was done racing it, my grandpa had passed away and my dad bought it, and it's been sitting here ever since. But now we're going to try to get it going again. They're starting to get some more races for these things, so we thought, why not try to put it back together, see what we can do in this thing, because we know it's fast. Take off the old Nerf bar so we can get to everything a little easier. These body panels are tricky. Everything's intertwined together, so everything's going to have to come off as we're taking body panels off, which should be fun. You can stop recording. Next, we're going to take off the shocks. As you can see inside underneath the hood, I don't know if you can show them that, there's a lot that goes on with these Supers. There's a lot of hoses, a lot of different parts that we are all going to learn what they do together, because I'm not 100% sure where everything's going to go when we put it all back together. But get these shocks off. When these shocks, I'm pretty sure, were made when the car was built and are older than me. So when we put the car back together, we'll put an upgraded shock package on it, kind of like what matches our sprint cars. That way everything goes together, everything matches, and hopefully rolls the corners better than what it did 30 years ago or 25 years ago, because I'm not that old yet. But we'll get all 4 corners off and then move on to the next thing. Getting the last shock off right now. I'm sure during this tear down and build, I'll have plenty of stories to tell. My plan is to try to get some of the people that worked on these cars and raced them, or raced this car, to come in and kind of tell some stories, because this car has such a history and a past that goes back further than I could ever remember. This car's been all over the place. It's had some really good drivers in it. I was actually the first person related to my dad or my grandpa to ever race it, so that was pretty cool for me back in the day. But I think there'll be some cool stuff to come out of this car, this project, and then hopefully we get to race it and it's competitive. We're going to try everything we can, make it like as competitive as our sprint cars. But first thing to make it competitive is we got to get rid of those shocks, because they are horrible. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 1980 seat out of it, because I used to race with that seat and there's no headrest, and by about lap 5 my head was hanging out the side and it was no fun. So that's going to be the next thing. We'll replace it with a full containment seat, make it as safe as possible, because back when they built these things, speed was the #1 concern, and safety was definitely not their #1 concern. So we'll get started on that next. One thing that I want to show you guys that's kind of crazy is in our sprint cars, this is our steering wheel. You see how big it is? It's like steering a school bus. It's very big. But for comparison, for a sprint or for a super, this is how big our super modified steering wheels are. It's kind of like almost as big as a go-kart steering wheel. It can completely fit inside of it. And then it's just a different way of like holding the steering wheel. Like sprint cars were here, straight up and down like a school bus driver, and supers, you're out like an Indy car out here in front of you, and you're steering this way. So it's just it's much different style of racing, style of steering, but it's pretty neat how they're both open wheel, but you can see the difference in the steering wheel sizes and shapes and all that. So thought that was one of the cool things about these. That's good. All right, time has come to pull this 1980 seat out of this thing. Maybe. Oh, goodness. Look at that. Oh, I was a little skinnier back then. Jeez, no headrest. Just by lap 5. Oh, this thing's gonna go in a museum up on a shelf somewhere. You're good. All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start taking off. I grabbed the wrong size. Next thing we're gonna do is start taking off radius rods, so the axles sit just against the frame. They're not sitting all weird. Take these off, make sure the heims are all good, and then that'll probably be one of the last things we do today. And then when we come back next time, we'll work on the motor, get the motor out. I don't know if you can see on camera. This might be the last time we run our Bud Light stacks that look like beer cans, but we'll work on getting the motor out, getting the rear end out, driveline taken out of it, and then figure out what we're going to do as far as motor and all that wise, and plumbing for the new motor that's going to go in it, and take the axles, brake lines. We got a lot to do, so we'll keep working on it. But right now we're going to take the radius rods out. Let's go. We're here at the end of day one. I feel like I got a lot done, but this is my dad. Dad, say hi to YouTube.
Hello.
He's been around, like I was saying. They were with Ed building this car with him and my grandpa. What's one thing interesting about this car or its history to close out this video today?
One thing unique about this car, it's an all original hider. It's never been clipped. But when it was first built, it was built to run with a starter. So the back had a clutch plate and a flywheel back there. We've got rid of that. The flywheel's still there, but everything was driven off the front of the motor. So the fuel pump and the power steering pump, instead of being behind the motor like most of them, everything drives off the front. That's why we have this long assembly right here. You got your oil pump, power steering pump, fuel pump, all driven off the cam. So that's something there's only one other car that was built that ran like this, and it's no longer around. So this is a one of a kind.
Well, there you go. Each time we do one of these videos, we'll try to get a story about it, somebody in here to talk about it, or something cool to finish out these videos. But that's it for day one on the super modified teardown. Hopefully we get to the rebuild soon and get this thing to the track.